Thank you for inviting me here today. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Mike, hold it up right up to your mouth.
And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. After high school, Lawler? How's this? After high school, I went in the Air Force and had an excellent career, exciting career, not only in the Air Force, but after I got out of the Air Force, I started to work for the U.S. Customs Service and the Drug Enforcement Administration. And I flew airplanes for both these organizations, and I have a lot of undercover flying, and I got one little clip we're going to show. I think it's about 3 minutes. It's a news broadcast out of Atlanta. Along with an informant, I flew 750 pounds of cocaine out of Colombia, in South America. So it's an interesting case, and this video I'm going to show you is the same video they show to new agents going to classes at the FBI and DEA academies in Connecticut, Virginia. They used to, I don't know if they do that anymore, it's quite a while ago. The parachute jump I made in 1984, and it seems to be something somebody wants to talk about here. When we jumped out of an airplane, we jumped two of us at a time. It was precision jumping. Our parachutes were modified so we could steer, and so we'd go two people at a time and we were looking at it. In the practice jump, we would jump on a target, which was basically a colored canvas on the ground, and there'd be two people on the ground to observe the jump, monitor it, and monitor us, and grade us on our quality of our precision. So on this particular day, this is a parachute jump that I had a malfunction on. This is not the first malfunction I've had with a parachute. I had one much earlier, several months earlier. I had a parachute jump into the Atlantic Ocean in support of NASA, the aerospace agency. And that's the one that's a jump that I'm not going to tell you about because we don't have a lot of time. I'm not prepared for that. But that's a jump that keeps me, I remember a lot. Because that one I almost died. I almost drowned. So let's go back to the current one. On the 18th of August 1964, it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and we take off with about 10 of us in the airplane. The last two jumpers that day were going to be Earl Maples, who was the guy with all the stripes on his sleeves, and his second in command. So we get out to the drop zone, we make a pass over the target area, and we have a guy on board. We all play the same role as a jump master. What he does is he tosses out a spotter chute that determines the wind drift and where we're going to jump from on the next pass. So that's what happens. And the next pass comes around, two of us are jumping. I'm going to be the second one to go out. First guy that goes out, I think his name was Gary Fowles. We go out the door. Now, when the plane is flying along, it's at 130 miles an hour when we make this jump. When you leave the plane, you're going to feel, normally you feel the breeze, of course, and then you get a lot of G-forces because you're stopping. You're going 130 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden you're coming to a brief stop, and then you're going to float down. Well, this particular time, I made that jump, and I didn't feel that strong G-force where you kind of groan a little bit when that parachute opens, and then you start to float on down. I didn't feel that this time. This time I looked up, and the parachute was spinning. It was like called a cigarette roll, and that's where it's just kind of straight up and just kind of spinning around. And I only had a couple of seconds to make a decision. And the decision was, well, I'm not going to get this unraveled. It's not going to work. So the next thing I do is deploy the reserve parachute, which is on your chest. And how you deploy the reserve parachute is you cover the top, you hold it down, and you pull the ripcord, which is also on the top, And then you reach underneath and grab a panel. Because on the top of it, first thing that's going to come out is a pilot chute, and it's going to inflate and fire right back up and drag the chute out and open for you. Well, the pilot chute, I was going so fast with no parachute, the pilot chute shot right back up into the main and it wrapped around the main tube. Well, that sucked. So I have about just a couple of seconds to figure out what to do. And it was pretty easy. I looked at the ground, put my feet together into the regular old training parachute landing fall that I was trained to do, and it worked out pretty well. Coming down, you land at about a 30-degree angle, and my bones, when you land like this here, my bones are not able to go up into my chest cavity, which is probably what saved me. So you land and it flat and splat, and I hit the ground, and I remember my legs pumping back and forth, and the guy that came on ran up to me on the ground. He says, "You're holding on to that parachute cloth and kind of doing this, and I don't know why, but that's what he saw, and he also saw a lot of red speckles around my forehead, and he looked at those and he thought, oh God, your head broke open and there's blood." Well, what it really was just some red paint on the inside of my helmet. The other guy on the ground, he told me later that he didn't come over because he didn't want to see me. He could see that my legs were moving, pumping back and forth, and he thought I was just going through the last few, moments of life. The plane came around the second time. It takes about 5 minutes. And the next two guys that come out were going to be the bosses. They wanted to see what was going on. As I'm laying on the ground, I'm getting better. I'm feeling good. I get my wind back as I got the wind knocked on me when I hit the ground, and I'm feeling better. I'm starting to get up to speed. Guys on the ground are saying, "Stay down. You got to stay down. You got to lay down. Stay down." And we waited for the next two jumpers to come. In the meantime, the helicopter was scrambled from the hospital, air ambulance, and they also, I later found out, they also preparing emergency surgery for me. So the helicopter arrived. Well, first off, the two bosses come down. One of the guys on the ground tells me that when he went to meet with the boss, he says, the boss first asked him, who was it? And the kid says, well, it was Leonard, and he's okay. And the boss says, what do you mean he's okay? And didn't respond. He just walked past the other guy on the ground and came over to me. And I don't remember actually even talking to him or seeing him. I was just kind of hanging loose on the ground. And I was really quite happy with my situation because I was alive and well and feeling better and smiling and joking with some of the guys. A few minutes later, the medevac helicopter comes out, and the doctor or flight surgeon they call him, he came hobbling up. He injured his knee getting out of the helicopter. And he was hobbling up to see me. He checked me over, checked my legs and looked at my eyes and all that kind of stuff. And I told him I'm fine. I'm okay. And he had me stand up. I stand up, walked, took a few steps, walked around, and I said, I'm fine. He says, lay back down. And he had a stretcher there, and he lay back down on the stretcher. And then again, I said, he's checking me over some more. I said, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm good. And he says, no, you're not. There's something wrong with you somewhere. I'm going to find out later. So they load me on the stretcher, loaded up the helicopter. We fly back to the hospital, and take me out. I'm on the stretcher, getting carried into the hospital. 3 or 4 people that are kind of looking at me like, stare a little bit, and then they kind of look at each other, kind of went. Later I find out that when the pilot called the hospital, told them that surgery wasn't needed, and that's all they said. They assumed I was dead. So the people that were kind of like shaking their head, looking, kind of wide-eyed looking, they thought, well, they're from the morgue. They were expecting a lot. Okay. Went to the hospital. I'm in a hospital room. I had to be put on a gown and all that sort of stuff. And then the doctors came in and checked me over again. They had a couple, 2 or 3 of them in there checking me left and right, checking my eyes, looking for changes in the pupils, and x-rays. I probably had 2 or 3 lifetimes worth of x-rays. They got a lot of x-rays left and right. I don't know why we couldn't have fixed anything, but finally they say, well, you've got 2, it looks like 2 slightly bent vertebrae. They all want to have 2. That's all we can find wrong. So that night, I spent the night in the hospital, and still every hour or 2 hours, someone would come in and check my blood pressure and heart rate, and then along about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sleeping, and the room lights up, and people rush in, and what had happened is the guy checking my blood pressure and my heart rate, it was pretty low because I was sleeping, and he hit the panic button. He thought there was something going wrong, and in comes several people and the doctors who explained, well, the guy was asleep. Heart rate's going to be down and blood pressure is going to be low too. So the next day, I was released and picked up on the boss, picked me up in the car and took me right to the barber shop. He says, you're going to go on the Johnny Carson show. And they followed me there. So I got trimmed up. Next day, off we go to New York to be on the Johnny Carson show. And I think we're going to play that video now.
What was your initial reaction now? trigger to distribute the weight over most of the body. All the feet to absorb approximately 40%. And mostly I maneuvered in and flat mostly on this back part of the muscle there. Kind of where you take all the way to my shoulder. Now what happened now right after you hit the ground? Did any time that you lose consciousness after you hit it at all? No, not the wind out of me. People told me that. It tends to do that when you walk 1,000 feet and a lot of parachutes and it tends to knock the wind out of you. So I'm like, how do you like that? Right? Yeah. Well, I felt like I could. Actually, I don't know what it feels like to be run over by a truck, but it's very simple. I heard people coming with like they jumped ahead of me, yelling at me not to move. Get them still running through so fast. My leg was moving. I couldn't help that. No way in the world. I didn't get up or make any attempts to get up. About 20 minutes later, the aircraft came down here. Flights are he examined these broken bones and things of that nature, found out. And the only entity was the flight surgeon himself. Smashed his elbow. Yes, I was going to go back up last Friday, but I'm temporarily grounded now for approximately 3 months. But I hope to get back in sooner. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to go back up within the next month anyway. That's not how you go right back up and ground again. Yes, it does. I guess you're not really astronomical. Oh, not. But bullshit's not functioning properly. That is true. It's the most amazing thing I've ever heard. But you gotta go back there and keep going. That's my job. Well, that's everything. You must tell them what your father does for a living. Because to me, when I was found out about this whole story, and somebody said, what's your father? We're talking about your folks. And what's your dad do anyway? Sells insurance. Sounds like that.
Just so what? I think I told you that the flight surgeon injured his knee. I guess it wasn't a long time. I can't remember. After this parachute jump, I did a lot of things. You know, flying parachute in the different things for National Aeronautics Space Administration. They did a lot of stuff with them with the capsules that come back from space with like John Lennon and all those folks. We were involved in that, and I never had the opportunity to parachute into the ocean and put a flotation collar on the capsule because they're designed to come back and land near an aircraft carrier. Navy would pick them up. And our job was, in case, as NASA explained, if the capsule comes back and it's off a couple of degrees, it'll skip. You could miss the target by 1,000 miles. And that's where we would be involved. I never had a chance to do that because they always come back and land in the right place, except for one occasion, and some of my friends in a location was there for that one. Then after I got out of the service, I got involved with the U.S. Customs Service and the Drug Enforcement Administration, and was an agent for both those agencies, organizations, and I flew airplanes. And a lot of the flying I did was undercover flying. And I flew into Colombia a couple of times picking up drugs. One time into the North Coast, Barranquilla. It's an international airport there in Barranquilla, Colombia, in South America. I picked up a load of drugs at early morning, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And as I took off, they loaded the plane, I didn't let them fill it to the brim. The signal to arrest them was when I took off in the airplane and fired it up and got down the runway. And as I did that, shots were fired by the Colombian police. Now my counterpart there from the embassy told the Colombian cops, don't shoot the airplane, he's with us, he's one of the good guys. But I still bent over a little bit in the cockpit as I was going down the runway because I didn't know if they really got the message. The second time I flew, the last time I flew drugs out of Colombia was with an organization out of New York, and it was part of the Medellin Cali cartel, drug cartel, Pablo Escobar's crew, but they weren't really real close to Pablo. There's a lot of extensions in that organization. But anyway, it was for the Atlanta office. I was flying large airplanes for the agency, and so I got tagged for that job, and it should never have happened. It was too dangerous to fly. I should have told them I'm not going to do it, but I didn't. And the Atlanta office manager should have said, well, it's too dangerous, we're not going to do that, but they didn't. Washington, D.C. was on top of this case, and they should have said, no, we're not going to do that, but they didn't. So we did. I did it. And we have a video, Atlanta news station did a brief news report about it, and I got a copy of that with me today, but I was going to show you. It's about 3 minutes long. It's not a big deal. Let me put that together.